So the Season 3 rebuild was a go, and we started off with staff, and you can see how brutal I've been. No decision made means I'm going to release them. I'm releasing well over 50% of the current staff team. I have decided to keep fitness coach Mauro Franzetti, mostly because he looks like Better Call Saul. As far as the team goes, there's a couple of key positions that we're going to need to improve. Obviously, first off, we need a new goalkeeper because Rizzo does leave the club, and I'm looking yet again for another central defender to play alongside the two chosen ones of Collina and Di Marino. Higher up the pitch, we're pretty limited if we're going to keep this formation because these three are now chosen one players, so they have to start every match. And bringing in players is going to be a bit of a problem as we continue to hemorrhage money. We're now £2 million in debt, which is a big worry because with teams chasing players like Collina, it may be taken out of our hands if the board want to take the money. Our first season in Serie B, and it's going to be a big task. As you can see from the pre-season odds, you'll find us down at 350 to 1, predicted to finish bottom by a good margin. So how did we go about improving the squad? We had nothing to spend, literally nothing. We managed to bring in a good 6 or 7 players, spending a big fat zero. So when I was looking to improve this squad, it was the attribute range we talked about in episode 1 of this story. Now we're in Serie B, we're looking for attributes, key attributes between 12 and 15. This led to our first signing of left wing-back Jan Oliveras, who has been released by Roma. He looks like a player with great potential in that left wing slot. The next free transfer was Matteo Della Morta. Released by Benevento, he's right on the brink of the attributes we need. Lots of 13s, 12s, 14s. A good all-round player who can provide good backup to the chosen one front line. I had a desperate search for a goalkeeper. I could not find one until right late in the transfer window, and Alberto Paleri comes in. He's been a backup for big teams like Torino. He'll do for this season. Not spectacular, but solid. Now the first big key signing was a new centre-back, Juan Cruz Guason, who comes in from Sarmiento, and he could be a key player. He's already ranked as our best central defender. Our only loan signing next, Adam Bakun, comes in from Roma as a right wing back. He starts actually at our rivals AC Milan, so good little backstory there. But he's a right wing back at 6'5". We also beefed out the squad with a couple of squad player signings, literally backups just to beef up the squad. And as usual, after listening to you guys, I've made a decision on some of the youth players. They are still in the first team squad, but we're sending them out on loan. Giovanni Agresta's got a full season loan in Serie D. I'm hoping he plays a lot. He's only 17, so let's keep an eye on his attributes. Now, Elton Sulaj has gone back on loan to Albania. He's had a great start there, and look at those attributes rising. We've got serious attribute growth coming in here. It looks like the right move already. I toyed with this one, but I have sent Pelagata out on loan to Serie C. He's going to play every match there, and again, attributes storming up. Now, with the financial problems we do have, we literally can't spend any money. That decision to send those boys out on loan means our squad is really tight. We've got our first 11 and we've got our bench, and that's it. That's all we've got to play with. It's very, very tough. You can see why we're ranked as bottom of the league in terms of predictions. But I do think this man will be the key signing. You can already see his value is 1.4 to 1.9 million. He's definitely a class above what we've got. He's got a jumping reach of 17. You add that to 6'4", he's going to be a threat from corners. I wanted to put my own stamp on my coaching team, and that's exactly what I've done. I've got a new assistant manager in Ragnar Sigurdsson, solid. Shea Given comes in as our goalkeeping coach. We've got Shivu as well, who can focus on the defensive side of the game, and Alberto Aquilani, who's just a good all-round coach. So tactically, because this tactic did so well last season, it makes sense to stick with it, and this is where this gets a little bit tough. With Rizzo going out, we saw Moretti is now the new chosen one, but for Serie B, it's probably too early for him. He's only 17, but he's got to play every match now. And this is why this save is so tough, because if we don't get going well, start well with this formation, those three have to play. So we might have to think of a plan B, which helps us get a non-chosen ones player into an attacking slot. Possibly a 4-2-4, possibly a 4-2-3-1. Our Serie B journey started with an away game against Cremonese. This was really harsh as we lost to a set piece and a penalty. And if you look at the match stats, we definitely deserve more. However, in the next match, our first home game against Entella, we performed really well. Moretti with the assist for Condella. He scored 2 in this match, including this wonder free kick. With our new set piece for Guason scoring from a corner, we got a 3-1 win. But then the harsh realities of Serie B hit us again when we played really well away to Cosenza and lost 3-2. So Condella has started the season fantastically, scoring 3 and 3. He's going to be so important this season. So as far as the plan B goes, I'm going to rule out the tactic we used in season 1. So plan A will be this, and I've got a couple of thoughts about plan B. The first one is potentially moving Moretti and Condella into strikers, so free up front, and then drop into a strictly counter-attacking game. And the next one is completely ripping the script up. Losing the three at the back, which would enable us to move Marino to left back and having a centre-back pairing of Collina and Guasson, dropping the right wing back to right back, having a solid back four. What this will do is, we could have the two central midfielders, then this position here would become available to be an extra attacking midfielder perhaps, or even an extra striker, meaning we can bring someone in who's not a chosen one player to help us get some goals. Because remember, Moretti, Ruticolano, Condello, Yaya, Collina and Di Marino have to start. This is where the save stipulation starts to get a bit tricky when we start getting ahead of the progress of some of our players. Moretti's going to be a great player. He's not ready yet. Now, if someone was to take Collina from us, for example, we're going to have to recall centre-back Agresta, who is nowhere near ready. In fact, I think he's just valued at a Serie C. And that's where this save will get really, really tough. But after 3 matches, we're sitting in 10th place. Obviously, the only object of this season is to survive. Somehow survive, but you can always have a little eye on ambition. And this is the rules of Serie B for people who are not familiar with Italian football. Your top two automatically promoted to Serie A. Third place is pretty funky. You can see it says promoted to Serie A or playoff, and this is why. You get up to Serie A if more than 14 points separate you from 4th position. So basically, if you absolutely earn it and deserve to go up, you're going to go up. If not, you will drop into the playoffs. Alongside 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th. So the top 8 gives you a chance of getting promoted to Serie A. What we need to worry about probably though, more likely this season, is here. Bottom 3 straight up relegated back to Serie C, which would be a disaster for us, both financially and basically for team morale. Then you've got the playouts here. Similar story here. If fewer than 5 points separate 16th and 17th, you go to a playout, but you go automatically down if it's 4 points. It's complicated, but in a weird way, I think it kind of makes sense. It makes sense in the 3rd place one. I kind of like. Remember all the championship teams in England who nearly get promoted in that top 2, then they go into the playoffs and they always get knocked out. They're very rarely the 3rd place team in the championship in England gets promoted to the Premier League. So that kind of guards you against it if you deserve it. Quite like it. Our big problem here is we can't really bring anyone in. We might be able to push to bring one player in on a free transfer, especially with that plan B in mind. There is an absolute truckload of free transfers available. Like, if we had some money, the side we could build with free transfers is crazy. For example, the couple of scouts I do have working have found all these players. Now, these guys are on free transfers. The first one is Romario Beiro. Look at that. I mean, what a central midfielder he would be, given his great versatility, and he's just a class above. You've also got someone like Juan Artola. Again, he can play across the forward positions. There's players there available on free transfers. We just can't afford them. So back to our youth setup, that's going to be where we find most of our players. And the good news is Diarico is now 17. He's eligible for a pro contract. We'll give him that. We'll try and get him out on loan. His physicals are through the roof. He's going to be a baller. It's pretty obvious we're going to have a long, hard season. A long, hard season. If you look at it, one of our star men from last season, remember he scored 30 goals last season. He's only ranked as a leading Serie C player. That's our squad. We are Serie C. A long season awaits. Early on, the theme continued. We were dominating matches, but we just could not get the results. Match stats like this were all too common. What nearly tipped me over the edge was this match against Reggiana, where they had 6 shots on target and 5 of them went in. I felt sick. It happened again against Palermo, but instead of panicking, I stubbornly stuck to our tactic and the chemistry came back to us and results started to go our way, and the key man in all of this was undoubtedly our boy Condello. That double gave us a big win over pre-season favourite Salernitana, and he really rose to the challenge when Guasson did that in only the 8th minute. But Condello got a 94th minute penalty for his hat-trick and got us a 3-3. And that result has really spurred us on. We've only one defeat since, to Sampdoria. We are on a great run. Don't forget our pre-season odds have us down at 450 to 1, but unbelievably in February we are sat in 5th and we are just off automatic promotion. What is going on? The turnaround has been huge and you can see our team attacking stats. We are way ahead of most teams in most metrics. Things are looking pretty good. As for the chosen ones, Condello has led the charge with 13 goals in the step up to Serie B and his value has rocketed to a max of 2.4 million. After a slow start, Ruti Giuliano is also starting to score. He's got 9 goals. Moretti, bless his heart, he shouldn't be playing as often as he is, but his value's shooting up to nearly 6 million and his attributes continue to rise, as does central midfield legend Yaya. Even Di Marino at 26 has shown some signs of improvement, and probably the biggest progression has been Kalina at 19 years old, but it's came at a cost. Yes, there is Kalina. This season has been superb, by the way. You can see his attributes on the rise. I keep forgetting he's only 19 because this is his 3rd full season, but you will notice under promise here, promised he'll be sold if 1.8 million bid is received. Now that might seem like bad news, and it is bad news. We were getting so many bids from Serie A teams. He wanted to speak to them and I wouldn't let him. So finally, I accepted the fact that I've got to let him go. But I did it right on deadline day. We got no bids in. So I'm hoping that he'll get over it. Because the season overall has been way better than we thought it was going to be. If I look at the schedule, you look at the start of the season, it was a bit up and down. The jump to Serie B looked a bit scary, but we didn't panic. We kept the same tactic, and despite the odd random game like that Reggiana one and that Palermo one, we've been on a great run at the minute. Great run, we're like 6 or 7 undefeated now. And it's not out of the realms of possibilities that we could challenge this top 2, and we beat Salernitana already. But there is one big problem that can affect the entire save. And if you remember, if we lose a player like Kalina, we need to replace them with one of our youth players. And that's directly affected by our facilities. Good youth facilities at the minute, but we need them better. However, I can't get them improved with the financial situation as it is. This, friends, is an absolute train wreck. If you remember all the way back in season 1, we started with a positive balance and I was quite cocky about, oh, we've got a great balance. So a bit more club background, and I was quite excited to see this, that the overall balance of the club is actually 2 million in profits. They're in a decent little place. Now, we are hugely in debt at 5 million. I was trying to save money wherever I could, even to the point where we have cancelled all our scouting. We don't do any scouting now. We're spending 0 money on it. And if you look at our recruitment team, I haven't bothered to get any more scouts in other than the 2 that we currently have. And one of them doesn't look like he's taking things too seriously. So what the hell is going on? This is total income. So far this month we've made 93,000 halfway through the month. Last month we created about 265,000. That doesn't sound too bad. However, when we go to expenditure, we can see this month we've already spent 358,000 and last month we spent 750,000. There's the problem. Having a look at the bigger expenditure, it is player wages. So that's probably on me. However, when we signed these players, the scouting wage budget allowed me to do that. I'm starting to think that Paolo isn't the greatest business person. Don't worry folks, it gets even worse. When I go to the projection tab, at the end of this current season, it estimates we'll be around 7 million in debt, and if we carry on the way we are, by the end of the season after, 12 million and then 16 million. So obviously something's got to be done, and I'm worried the board are going to take matters into their own hands and sell our key players from under our noses. For now, I need to have a look at what I can do for the end of the season. If I go up to contract info up here, lock that in and have a look at wage, you can see that one of the signings had a cheeky clause, and that was totally my fault for not looking at it. Jan Oliveras was signed for about £2,000 a week, and I've just noticed that his wage has now gone up to £6,000 a week. Must be down to appearances. That's on me. Other high earners include Guasson, who's probably worth it, Di Marino, who's the chosen one, and then Melangoni, who is a great player, but his contract does expire at the end of the season, so we'll let him go and save that £4,000 a week. Some of the other high earners aren't even regulars, so I need to ship them out and replace them with players from the youth team. This isn't one of those saves where we came in and just bought loads of players and devastated the club. We thought we were doing things pretty sensibly, but we are in the mud. Ironically, just before the summer transfer window closed, we did sign a new player as well, Lauren Zuniga, who was at Real Madrid's B team. We had to lose Krastev. It wasn't a great offer, but I had to get his wages off the bill, so he's gone back to Bulgaria. So the financial state of the club is a huge worry, but what is going well is the actual performance of the team, and we have brought in a new tactic, and it's not what you might think. We had a very tough away game at Foggia, and we just about got the job done. However, in that match I reverted to this formation where we basically had a flat back five, so the two wing backs dropped back, meaning we're a little bit more defensively solid. Probably not the attacking switch you were thinking I would do, right? I'd love to say that it was my genius that discovered this formation, when in actuality it was this man and his main club bitching at me. So Adam Bakun is a great player. He plays down the right hand side. He's absolutely superb. However, under the terms of his loan deal, his preferred position was defence right. So right in the right back slot, and I've been playing him higher up. This has led to AS Roma manager Thomas Lech giving me grief non-stop, threatening to pull the loan move. So in fear of losing him, I've played quite a few away matches like that, just to make them get off my back. And it's so vital we keep him. 6'5", he's a threat from corners, but he's also really good going forward as a wing back. So yeah, by default, we've got a second formation. Now the other thing that's developed really well is our loan players. Now we've got 5 players out on loan, and all of them are going to be vital. Now check this out. Elton Sulaj, who is on loan in Albania, his attributes just continue to rise. He's playing regularly, and now his actual value for the club is up to near 3 million. My question to you is, he's very versatile, but which will be his best position? Because next season, he's a definite. Pelagata, playing down in Serie C, scored 4 times from the attacking midfield slot. And again, he's got some great attribute growth going on, valued at 1.6 million. One of the more unspectacular ones is Giovanni Agresta. He's got a lot of improvement to do. He's only 17, but if Kalina leaves, he is in line to step in. And the final one who was out on loan and playing well is Nicolo Di Arico. He's got great physicals. He's probably got the best physicals of the young players. But where should we put him? Is he right being a winger with that crossing that's not great? Some people say he should be a striker, but his off the ball movement worries me a little bit. This one, I'm a bit confused about where to train him up as when he gets back to the club. But overall, these loan moves have been a great success. So at this point in the save, this is where I like to look for players who are out of contract in South America that have been released, such as Augustine Pallavicino. He would walk into our team, but obviously we can't make any bid for him because we have no money. Frustrating. There's even a player like this, Matteo Companon. He's been released by Juventus. A free transfer, it'd be ideal. Just can't afford him. Add that to the fact that players like this are coming up for grabs at the end of the season, end of contract. A great goalkeeper, perfect for us. You guessed it, can't afford him. Which makes this section even more important for us. It's the development centre, the youth candidates, the preview, and it's only an average intake. We didn't have a great intake last year either, so we are really scraping the barrel to build up a squad. However, let's just keep an eye on Stefano Socci, who continues to improve, that potential striker. And there's also Vittorio Guido, who is a 16-year-old centre-back, who may get a shot. So in season 3, we've got roughly 12 games left of the season. And remember, we are currently sat in 5th, the top 8 going to the playoffs, but we're only 4 points off automatic. We've got to dare to dream, right?
You can't win anything with kids. He's got to buy players, as simple as that.
In our current situation, you might think this is a bit odd to build our shortlist, but we've got a plan for the future, right? And these players, at this age, would be fantastic for us. And believe it or not, this is where we find them. The next gen 50 best wonder kids in football list. Now, obviously not off the first page, because most of these are at the elite clubs and will be out of our price range, even when we do have money. So we jump to the last pages, and I have a little look around with a keen eye on South America. Such as this player ranked at 49 is Juan Osorio. You can see he's only 17, he's a centre-back. There's potential there, and his value isn't bad. Even this player, who is ranked at 50, look at the mentals on this kid at 17 years of age. So go through that list, mostly from 20 up to 50, and I shortlist players that I believe will be gettable. If I was in a better financial position, I would probably take all of these players, put it that way, and they would all get in our first team squad. So that is a great resource to find great young players, whatever the level you're at. Looking at these young players made me think of Matteo Rizzo, who we sold to Bologna, and he hasn't played a minute for them. Kid's wasting his career. So enough of all that transfer talk, because we are still in this terrible situation financially. And believe it or not, we might now be in the unreal situation where we need to get promoted to Serie A to keep this save going. Because not only do we have the threat of Chosen Ones players getting sold, but we also find ourselves in a position that we can't afford to extend their current contracts, and a lot of them are out at the end of next season. And losing any of those players would be an absolute disaster. Going into these last run of fixtures, we did have an outside chance of getting automatic promotion to Serie A. But in true Pro Vercelli form, we hit a sticky patch right when we didn't need it. I mean, save that. Losing 2 in a row, despite that match domination. Thankfully, Captain Yaya stepped up and dragged us out of it single-handedly, including this absolute worldie. You ready? That led to 3 successive wins, but it wasn't enough as we finished 6th in our first season in Serie B and into those playoffs. Our first game in the playoffs was fancied Empoli, a really tough match. This was a really tight affair and we had to work really hard to get the win. We just got through, and a rare occasion where we probably didn't deserve it. This led to a 2-legged affair against Frosinone for a right to get to the Serie B playoffs final. The first leg we played well, Moretti setting up Guerrero for that absolute stormer. They equalised with a penalty, but later on Guerrero got a second pile-driving goal. But literally 1 minute later, they equalised again. First leg, 2-2. We were the strongest team in the first leg, so I was confident going in. However, in the 43rd minute, we went behind. We didn't change from our philosophy, playing out from the back, patient football. We threw everything at them. But despite trying everything to break them down, we just couldn't do it. And the game ended with a 3-2 aggregate loss. So that's hugely disappointing, but we've got to be real here. If we said we were going to get to the semi-finals with our squad at the start of the season, I would have ripped your hands off. The only problem is we could have done with that promotion to get us money, even though it's way ahead of schedule. Now bear in mind our financial issues, this was a very important youth intake, and unfortunately there's not a lot to crow about. This is the standout, it's Marco Caporali. Doesn't look great, but he's only 15, so there is something to work with there, but the fact he's the standout is a problem. It was time to plan for season 4, and all these players here who are about to be out of contract were all set for release, and that should be a good amount of wages off the bill. And that will unfortunately include our goalkeeper, Valeri, who's been pretty solid to be fair, but we just can't afford to keep him. If you look at the first 11, it's not too bad because we do keep most of the players in there for next season. There's just a new goalkeeper will be required. The big gaps are on the bench. As you can see, we've only got 4 or 5 players left to fill the bench. So key in filling up our squad will be all these boys who are out on loan. And as you can see from their performance, they're having a blooming good time. So they will all come back into the fold, into the first team squad. So this is going to be a very different type of rebuild. This is going to be the no-cost rebuild because these positions here above my head are going to be filled by youth players that are out on loan and probably some that are already with us still at the club. So these boys in the under-18s will prove to be really important going forward. There's some that have really rised up in terms of potential. You can see we've got some good star ratings there. So potential is good. Sochi's just turned 17. I'm torn between putting him in the first team squad this season or sending him out on loan. Mostly because I don't know where to blooming play him yet. The predicament we find ourselves in that this man, Giuseppe Pinzati, who I've got out on loan in one of the lower leagues in Italy, at the minute will be our number 1 keeper. To make matters worse, and not unexpectedly, Roma have rejected our attempt to get Bakun on loan for another season. And by the end of the season, the finances, yeah. However, there was some good news. The board had got their hands in their pockets and managed to give our chosen 1 players new contracts, starting with Condello, and an absolute key signing in Marco Moretti. With that value, he was essential to keep. Giuliano also signed up for another 4 years, and that meant our chosen 1 players are locked in. Massive relief. As far as the season goes, it was pretty much dominated by our chosen 1's players. Player of the season was Yaya, and young player of the season. Top goal scorer was Condello, and most assists was our boy Marco Moretti. Giuliano got most player of the match awards, and there's Yaya again with highest average rating. Nice to see we started breaking records for Vercelli as well. And Moretti claimed another award. I'm just a bit worried that's going to attract attention though. All that good news was halted by this. Pro Vercelli are close to administration. unsustainable financial position, and if extra funds can't be found, then the prospect of the club entering administration is a real possibility. Wonderful. So this news wasn't great. So I went back in for Adam Bakun, and they said no again. Bro hates me. Now, scouts didn't get the memo and kept recommending players. It appears this guy is annoyingly good at his job. And when I saw the sheer amount of players available for free, oh my god, I'm so frustrated. I managed to ship out Ulrich. That's another £3,000 off the wage bill. I mean, I'm doing my bit, Paolo. It's got to the stage where I'm even losing my coaches. Sassuolo are going to take Andrea from us. And because they're offering us nearly £70,000, I can't really block the move. At least we were recognised as the biggest overachievers in the league. Predicted to finish 20th, we did finish 6th. Receiving 1.2 million for TV rights has got to help, kinda. But then the big move, we release 11 players and some big earners have left us. But now our first team squad looks paper thin, look at that. Now releasing all those players had meant we had a little wage budget, but the choice is now, do we push it and put ourselves in more financial problems? Here's the thing, we might have to because we've got no right back now because Bakun's gone and we've got no goalkeeper. And I don't have any on the bench. Problem is, if I do add to the wage budget, that's just going to get worse. But I can't lie to you, it is so tempting because some of these players down this list, all available for free. Wow. I was staggered to say that the season preview had us at 18. I thought we'd be way bottom, but newly promoted sides were just below us. So my question to you is, what would you do? Would you roll the dice, use that wage budget to fill this squad out a bit? In doing so, that would give us 2 guaranteed starters in goal and at right wing back, but the problem would then be, this would get worse and we'd pretty much have to get promoted.
You can't win anything with kids. You can't win anything with kids. You can't win anything with kids.